I'm joined now by Congressman Greg Casar. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, of course. Good to see you.
You too. So you have been especially focused on a certain law that actually impacts Elon Musk as in his designation as a special government employee. So what are the implications for that law on Elon that most people don't seem to recognize or certainly not talking about?
Yeah, the biggest news that you probably haven't heard of is that Donald Trump must, by law, fire Elon Musk in 50 days. So 50 days from now, Elon Musk is no longer allowed to continue his reign of terror. And the reason that Elon Musk has been allowed to funnel billions of dollars to his own companies, to run cabinet meetings while having all these conflicts of interest is because they're exploiting something called a quote special government employee. And this is a special designation that essentially lets you live in this kind of corruption zone for 130 days. But then you have to leave the federal government after those 130 days. So the clock is ticking. I led an effort with over 75 other House Democrats to make clear to Donald Trump that he frankly should have fired Elon Musk yesterday. But if he doesn't fire Elon Musk by May 30th, then they are in very clear violation of the law, and we will use every tool at our disposal from the courts to the Congress to public pressure to get rid of him.
And what does that look like in the aftermath of, let's say, the sad reality is that in this political environment, the norm becomes that Donald Trump won't follow the law as opposed to the supposition that he will. And so what happens in the event, for example, that 130 days comes and goes, Elon Musk is still there, even though they've been trying to obfuscate what his actual position is. I mean, they've called him the administrator of Doge, then they pretended that he's not the administrator of Doge. They say he wasn't going to be present in these cabinet meetings. Suddenly he's got a literal seat at the table. And so if he stays because, this administration views itself as being above the law, then what comes next?
Elon Musk clearly is running the show, but they keep giving him different titles and keep
Right.
hiding what he's really doing because they're afraid of accountability under the law. And if House Democrats take back the House, we can't just call bygones, let bygones be bygones. We've got to go and investigate exactly what it is that happened and all the laws they broke and hold them accountable for it. So, yeah, look, Brian, I, like most Americans, should not think that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are going to follow the law because they want to. We've got to make it so that they have to. And that is why we should be able to pursue some options in the courts. And we've had a lot of courts issue strong injunctions against the Trump Musk administration, but we can't leave it to the courts alone. And that's why public pressure and the people are the ultimate check and balance in this system. So I'm asking for Democrats to make it a campaign day in and day out for the next 50 days to say that we have to fire Elon Musk. Otherwise, he's blatantly violating our anti-corruption rules. And if we ramp up that public pressure, then we can get Donald Trump, I believe, to fire Elon Musk. And that would be, in my view, the greatest win by the American people so far of this Trump administration. And frankly, the greatest win of Democrats so far. Just like we saved the Affordable Care Act when Trump tried to get rid of it 7 or 8 years ago. And then we campaigned on that through the midterm elections, getting rid of Elon Musk and starting to reinstate some of these vital programs that he's ripped to shreds. That's what I think we should be working on and winning on.
To that exact point, can you speak a little bit about the what Elon has been successful in cutting versus the benefit, the financial benefit that he's deriving by virtue of, making himself the arbiter of whether he can be regulated, all things federal government?
The entire Doge scam, I think you can understand with two numbers. The first number is $8 million a day. Elon Musk gets $8 million a day in federal government contracts and subsidies. The second number is $65 a day. $65 a day is how much your average senior gets on Social Security just to barely survive on after working their entire life.
Yeah.
And so if you thought that they were going to be going after efficiency or waste, fraud, and abuse, they're not looking into Elon Musk's $8 million a day they get in contracts. They're not looking into the way that big pharma fleeces the taxpayer for literally tens of billions of dollars a year by overcharging us. They're not looking into big tech or big war contractors. No, they're looking into your parents $65 a day that they barely survive on. So at the end of the day, Musk is going and slashing programs and attacking things like the Social Security Administration in order to take those quote unquote savings and funnel them to himself, either in the form of billionaire tax breaks like the Republicans are trying to pass, or in the form of further government contracts. So Musk is trying to get, for example, his Starlink technology embedded at the FAA to make himself more money. Right. He got caught trying to funnel $400 million towards Tesla through the State Department. And he only had to back off on it because he got caught. And so I think this is a moment where we can have enormous public pressure, stop Musk, and actually use that to turn things around for the Democratic Party, like we saw in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, where when Democrats really focused on Musk's corruption and made sure that people saw us as a pro-worker, anti-billionaire party, we won that race by a big margin, not just despite Musk spending over $20 million to try to buy that Supreme Court race, but in fact, because he spent those billions of dollars, people said, I don't want a billionaire buying politicians and our court system. And that finally gave Democrats the boost that we've needed for so long.
You know, can I have your reaction to the fact that throughout that whole process, just talking about Wisconsin as a quick aside, we did see so much mis and disinformation being peddled from Musk about how anybody showing up to protest Elon Musk, whether it was in Wisconsin or across the country, these are paid protesters. Anybody who rallied for Susan Crawford, the liberal candidate for the state Supreme Court, those were paid protesters. Everybody's a paid protester. Nothing is organic. Nothing is grassroots. Anything that is against the Republicans is just paid. And yet you had Elon Musk quite literally on stage handing $1 million checks to people in an effort to bribe them to show up to vote.
And don't let the gaslighting get you down, because I think what we have seen throughout American history is when they try to crush First Amendment rights, when they try to silence voters and the voices of everyday people out there, it actually just gives us a megaphone. Yeah. And so make sure that you keep on speaking out, because the reason they're trying to stop people from calling out Elon Musk, the reason they're trying to label all peaceful protesters as somehow violent vandals, is because the strategy is working.
Right.
They want you to feel powerless because they're afraid of your power. So we're out there having right now town halls in Republican districts. I went and did one in Chip Roy's district the other day. I'm doing 2 more town halls in Republican districts in Texas and in other states like Colorado. And hundreds and thousands of people are showing up. They're trying to call them all paid protesters. I asked people, are you a paid protester? Not a single hand went up. And that they are targeting our free speech and calling people paid protesters because it's working. We're getting under their skin. We're getting the word out. And this makes a difference, because look, but just like I said, 7 or 8 years ago, they thought they could get rid of millions of people's healthcare, get rid of Obamacare. They had the House, they had the Senate, Trump was in the White House. But we stopped them, not just because of Congress, but because of public pressure. When so many people began speaking out, their very thin Republican majorities fell apart. And today we have the Affordable Care Act. I think we have to be able to do the same thing. The Republican majority in Congress is just 3 votes. This billionaire tax cut that they're trying to move through, they moved the next stage of it just yesterday on the House floor, but it only passed by 1 vote. So if we're able to ramp up the pressure and tell every single Republican member of Congress, your vote is the deciding vote, and we flip 1 vote, that's how it is that we block these billionaire tax breaks. That's how we save Medicaid as we know it. That's how we save Social Security. That is how we stop these billionaire tax breaks and then transform our party into a winning party again.
I want to jump into this latest vote in just a minute, but quick question on you showing up to these town halls, which, by the way, I love, and I've spoken to a few of your Democratic colleagues in the Senate. You know, obviously we saw Cory Booker do his 25-hour speech. We've seen Brian Schatz hold up 300 nominations. Elizabeth Warren kept the Senate in session past 1 o'clock in the morning yesterday by not giving them that time allowance that they had requested, and so we're seeing Democrats not only recognize that, okay, it can't be the bare minimum, it has to be the absolute maximum, And you've got to do something that's going to break through in this media environment. You have to take big swings. And so first of all, grateful for the fact that you are going into these red districts, especially districts that your Republican colleagues aren't bothering showing up in because they know what the response to their overt corruption is going to be. I'm curious, when you went there, I know that you asked folks, obviously, are there any paid protesters here? I don't think that, that Republicans got the answer that they wanted to that one. But were there Republicans there? And did you have any communication with those folks in terms of how they view, A, what's going on, and B, the fact that you've got to be there because their own elected officials, who their tax dollars pay for, aren't bothering to show up?
We have to show up everywhere. Look, in Texas, the most rural and red areas of our state used to be the most democratic parts of our state. And so we've got to go back there and talk with everyday constituents who are being betrayed by the MAGA Republicans as we speak. Look, some of the most important stats you need to know is that over 80% of Republican voters do not approve of slashing Medicaid in order to pay for billionaire tax cuts. But 100% of Republican members of Congress are voting that way. How does that square up?
Yeah.
The only way we can hold those Republican members of Congress accountable is going to their districts and telling their constituents the truth, face to face. And you asked, did I speak to more conservative leaning, independent, and disaffected voters at these town halls? Absolutely. And what I say every time is, look, you can disagree with me on this social issue or that one. That's okay. That's part of democracy. But don't we all agree that when you work hard and work a full day's worth of work, that you should be able to have a comfortable retirement, that your Social Security shouldn't be stolen by billionaire interests, that you should get paid a decent wage for a full day's work, and that your taxpayer dollars should serve your community? They shouldn't serve some gigantic business interest just because they've got the lobbyists. And that's something that the vast majority of people can agree on. The message I'm sending to you right now on your show, that the Democratic Party should transform more into being the pro-worker, anti-billionaire party, that we should be working on worker wages and tax cuts for everyday people, not for the billionaires. It's the same message I just took on Fox News Live the other weekend. It's the exact same message I used on Univision the next day. Look, this message works because it's both a progressive message, but it's a message that works with conservative voters too. That's how we built the Democratic Party under FDR and JFK and LBJ. We made sure we took care of people's everyday concerns. We took big swings so that people knew that we're standing up for them, and we were willing to call out the bad guys who are screwing people over. That way we can hold together people that might have a variety of views. That might be rural and urban, that might be more conservative, more progressive, but they know that we actually give a damn about that.
Now, I want to talk about the latest Republican vote in the House. Obviously, we saw on the Senate side that they prescribed $880 billion in cuts to the Energy and Commerce Committee as a way to kind of cloud what they were doing. The reality is the only way to cut $880 billion from the Energy and Commerce Committee is to cut Medicaid. That's it. The math doesn't math unless you cut Medicaid if you're prescribing cuts that large to that certain committee. Same concept applies with the Agriculture Committee. They prescribed $230 billion in cuts to that committee. Only way to do that is to cut food stamps. And so can you talk about that in relation to into the bill that was just passed, or the budget framework that was just passed out of the House?
Just last night, there was a big fight about whether they would cut your healthcare and food program for needy kids and families by a lot or by a ton. Now, where there was no debate amongst Republicans on the House or Senate side was whether they were going to give a billionaire tax cut. They just were having a debate about whether to slash or whether to destroy Medicaid as we know it. And they came together with an agreement that they want to come and hack away dollars from healthcare and from food programs. These are the sorts of things that we've all jointly contributed to benefit us. They want to take those tax dollars. It is the biggest redistribution of wealth away from working class people to their billionaire donors. That's what they agreed to. But they haven't gotten out of the woods yet, because now they've got to go to committee and they've got to bring it back to a final vote. And they only got this thing through the House by one vote.
Yeah.
So if we turn up the pressure at this moment if you make the phone calls, if you march, if you talk to your neighbors, if you post online, if you reach out to your representative, if you hold a town hall, then it could be you. It could be you watching at home and people that you know that save Medicaid as we know it, that save food stamps as we know them. Look, the average person surviving, making sure they've got their kids' food on food stamps, it's like $3 a meal
Yeah.
that they're getting. And they're
Right.
coming for that money in order to give out trillions of dollars in tax cuts that basically almost all of it goes to big corporations and the wealthiest people on the planet. That is nuts. And it doesn't make sense to independent or conservative voters either. So get the word out. We as Democrats need to stand and fight and not roll over and play dead in this moment. But we also need reinforcements from the outside. And so your continued advocacy makes all the difference.
Perfectly put. Congressman, we'll leave it there. Appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot.